Motivation tells you get up, work harder, and stop complaining. Inspiration says, I see you. I know this is heavy, but it's still something worth fighting for. And this is the kind of space that I want to build. Not there yet. That's what it is. A place where people are still becoming. A place we do not just celebrate the wins. We talk about the road to the wins. Because the road is where the person is. That's where the person is built. Okay, so I'm not here to motivate you. Motivation is easy. Somebody can motivate you by, showing you money, with fear, with just pressure, right? With a deadline, anything. Somebody can even motivate you with a quote on Instagram that makes you feel good for about 5 minutes. But inspiration is very different. Inspiration makes you feel like your life can mean something again. It reminds you that you're not just trying to make more money or lose weight, start a business, or look successful online. No, you're trying to become someone. And that is what this podcast is about. Not pretending, not performing, not acting like I have everything figured out, like my life is so good. This is about the people who are still feeling behind, the people that still believe that there's more in them. Because I'm 33 years old, and if I'm being honest, I still try to answer one question. Who am I becoming? All right, welcome to the Not There Yet podcast. My name is Darren Belazaire, and this is the first episode of, the podcast, my origin story. And I don't want this to only be about me. I want to feel like there's a room for anybody here who has ever looked at their life and thought, I should be further by now. I should be more confident by now. I should have everything figured out by now. I should know who I am by now. And if that's you, I want you to stay with me throughout this episode because by the end of today's episode, I want you to sit with one question. What do you do when the person you are today does not match the person you wanted to create, to become, the person you wanted to become? All right, so my story starts a little bit strange way. I was born in the US, but I grew up in Europe, right? My father was diplomat for Haiti, so my childhood has never been simple. I spent a lot of time in France until I was about 12, but I also moved around in Europe. I've been to Geneva, Madrid, Italy, all these places that people just dream about. Different countries and different languages. I've been in different rooms where I had to learn how to adjust. And when you're a kid, you don't always understand what that does to you. You just adapt to your situation. You learn to watch people, you learn to read the room, and you learn how to survive by becoming whatever version of yourself feels the safest. At some point, my father decided that France was not a place for us to grow where we'd have the best chance to grow. No. He felt like we needed more options. So first, he sent my brother to America. Then later, we came as well, my sister and myself. And that's where I started learning who I was, or maybe who I thought I was. One of the first moments I can remember is feeling different was when I first got to school, middle school. It was not just a language barrier, it was the way I understood things, the way I reacted, and the way I tried to fit in. I remember on my second year of school, it's gonna mark me forever, we had PE, and one of the girls, she just touched me. And I didn't know what to say or how to say it. I didn't have the words yet to express myself, so I laughed in her face. And because that's all I knew how to do, I laughed because I was so uncomfortable with the situation. And I did not know how to really defend myself. I laugh because sometimes when you don't know who you are yet, you let the moment decide for you. And I think a lot of us learned that early. And we learn how to disguise discomfort. We learn how to play it cool. We learn how to become easy to be around, even when something inside us feels confused. As time passed, I bounced between different friend groups, different people, different versions of myself. I was trying to belong. But when you spend too much time trying to fit in, you can lose the ability to stand as yourself. And now at 33 years old, I can look back and say, my first real experience with imposter syndrome was that moment. I did not know who I was. And if I'm being honest, I'm still working on that thing today. High school made that even louder for me. I went to North Miami Beach Senior High School. My first year, they put me in this gifted program, BEAM. And that's where comparisons really started to fit in, right? A lot of kids knew each other from JFK Middle, and they had history. They had already their groups. They had confidence. And then there's me, sitting in a classroom full of smart kids, watching people get A's and B's while I'm getting C's. I knew I wasn't dumb. I've been told I'm smart all my life, right? But I couldn't understand why I was struggling. That feeling started to follow me. Maybe, maybe, just maybe, I don't belong there. I'm not as smart as them. Everybody else got the instruction to life, and somehow I missed mine. Then I had a teacher pull me over to the side one day, and he told me that one of the kids thought I smelled bad. That may sound so trivial to some people, but when you already feel out of place, something like that does not feel small. It cut deep because now I was not just wondering if I belong, I was wondering what people were saying when I was not around. How do they see me? What is wrong with me? And I might have joked or I just don't get it. And I think a lot of us have that moment that we think about things like that. You know, it could be just a comment, a rejection, a failure, a room where we felt invisible, a time where we felt exposed. And we tell ourselves we moved on. But sometimes we don't just move on, we don't. Sometimes we just build a personality around the wound. This is why this podcast to me matters a lot. I don't want to build a show that just gives people motivation. Yeah, go out there, do it. No. I want to build something that makes people feel seen, right? There's a difference. Motivation tells you get up, work harder, and stop complaining. Inspiration says, I see you. I know this is heavy, but it's still something worth fighting for. And this is the kind of space that I want to build. Not there yet. That's what it is. A place where people are still becoming. A place we do not just celebrate the wins. We talk about the road to the wins. Because the road is where the person is. That's where the person is built. For most of my life, I never fully gave up on success. No. I always believed that I could be somebody. But I did at some point give up on the steps. I'll start something, get excited, see the vision, imagine the future, and somewhere down the middle, I'll just stop. Sometimes I'll move just to another idea. Sometimes I'll just disappear from the work completely. Sometimes I'll just tell myself, this is not the right thing. But deep down, I thought I was scared, right? I was scared to commit. I was scared to fail. I was scared to find out that even if I give everything, it might not work. And when you break promises to yourself long enough, you stop trusting your own voice. You say that, this time it'll be different. But that other part of you said, will it? Really, really? It's a hard place to live. That is very tough. And recently I started reading Psycho Cybernetics. It's a great book. It made me think about my self-image. The picture that you carry of yourself, that picture, because if that picture in your mind is broken, right, it feels like you're losing. I realized that I had trained myself to visualize the worst in every situation. I could clearly see failure. I could see embarrassment clearly. I could see myself failing and falling short every single time. But I was not giving the same energy to the actual life that I wanted. So now I practice every day. I take about 10 minutes and visualize the person that I'm becoming. The man who finishes, right? The man who leads, right? The person who can eventually build a family. The man that can be trusted and keep his word. And not because I'm there already, far from it, but because I need to see him before I can become him. See, one of my biggest dreams in life is to have a family. And when I say family, I don't just mean the people living in the same house. No. I mean the responsibility, right? I mean the safety, the peace, being someone people can count on every single day. See, I look at my dad and see a man who made hard decisions for his family at all times. He moved us, he stayed away, he created options. He gave us the chance to grow. And for myself, that's the kind of man I want to be as well. I don't want to be perfect, but I want to be steady. A person with a vision, a man with a vision, a man with a path, a man who says, I may not have everything figured out today, but I'm no longer running from the work. I will do the work. See, that's where I am right now. And This podcast is never going to be a victory lap. It's a starting line. It's me saying, I'm tired of pretending that I'm okay with staying the same. And I hope maybe you're too. Maybe you're 28, 25, 18, 35, looking at your life, wondering, why does it not look the way I thought it would by now? You see people online getting married, they got in great shape, they're making money, buying homes, building businesses, lives, relationships, and they're posting wins every day. And even when you're happy for them, there's something inside of you that still hurts. Because when that question, when is it my turn, just becomes real. But then you start thinking, you know, what am I becoming while I wait? That is the vision for Not There Yet. It's a community of people who are honest to admit that they're still building and brave enough to keep going. Not people who need to be dragged, people waiting for someone to save them. We don't do that. People who still have motivation behind them, but need a vision strong enough to aim for it. Because when you can see where you are and where you're going, it becomes easier to get in that car. So here's where we're going. We're going towards discipline, towards self respect, towards better habits, and towards stronger identity. We're going to build faith, purpose, and the expectation of becoming the future person that our family, future business, future community, future self can rely on. The road will never get easier just because you get older. Never. In many ways, when you get older, it gets harder. But the hardest battles are usually the ones that nobody sees. No applause, no audience, right? No perfect angle, just for you. It's just you making in your room a decision, a choice. Am I going to quit again? Or am I going to become the person that kept saying that I want to be? And this is where Not There Yet begins. With a man who's still trying to figure it out. A man who has started and stopped way too many times. A man who has spent years searching for himself through other people. But also a man who still believes that there's more. And if you're listening, or maybe that could be you too. You're still building, you're still healing, and still trying. Still not there yet. But one thing we're gonna agree on, you're not staying there either. So before we end this today, I wanna ask you something. What part of your life are you tired of pretending is okay? Because that might be where your real story starts.